The High Evolutionary in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is probably one of the best villains we've seen in the MCU up to date, probably top 5 for me MCU villains of all time. I thought he was done amazingly well by James Gunn, and I think that, his powers were cool as well, that we saw later on in the movie. He didn't have them at the start, but of course we learned that he managed to do that himself. And I just think overall he's the best Guardians villain that we've had so far in the 3 movies. And I think overall he's just a perfect villain. And I think that he is definitely deserving of having in the top 5, ranking of MCU villains. Or he's definitely up there anyway of being one of the best villains of all time that we've seen in the MCU, along with Thanos and, Kang, who has a big future. And this is what I'm going to be talking about in this video. With the controversy surrounding Jonathan Majors at the moment, with the MCU and his future in the MCU and what's happening with him, with his, the cases going on with him, with the abuse and stuff like that of his girlfriend or his ex-girlfriend. We don't know the full details of that, and I won't go into full details because that's not what I do on this channel. It's not my job to talk about. I'm here to talk about Marvel and his future in the MCU. So I won't go into how I feel about the situation and my opinions on it. But overall, going away from that situation, I think Jonathan Majors is an incredible actor. I think he is amazing as Kang the Conqueror in the MCU, and it would be very disappointing if it is true for him to throw his career away like this. But like I said, I'm not going to go into it. I just think personally, he is perfect for Kang. We learned the other day that they've sort of focused on Kang now, that that the news was that apparently they weren't going to focus on Kang the Conqueror going into the multiverse saga. They weren't going to mainly focus on him, and as we've seen him in Quantumania and Loki and stuff. But as we've learned with the Jeff Loveness has left Kang Dynasty, the writer of Kang Dynasty, Jeff Loveness has left, and with that we learned that that they focused more on, they weren't going to focus on Kang and Jonathan Majors as Kang, but his performance in Loki and Quantumania has showed and proved to Kevin Feige and everyone at Marvel that they need to be focusing on him in the future of the MCU because of how good of his acting is and how good of a character he makes Kang in the MCU. And I think he does it amazingly well. Like I said, he's an incredible actor, and his potential going into the future is amazing. He has a big future as Kang if everything goes well for him and everything goes right going into the future. As Kang. But if stuff does go wrong with Jonathan Majors and Marvel do a recast of Kang, I think the High Evolutionary would be a perfect Kang variant, and I think Chadwick Boseman would be an amazing person to recast Jonathan Majors Kang. Obviously it would be disappointing to see Jonathan Majors go, but if everything goes wrong, of course, then it would probably be right for him to go. Well, it would be right for him to go, but I do think Chadwick Boseman would be the perfect replacement for Jonathan Majors as Kang. He is an amazing actor. He brought emotion to the High Evolutionary. He brought a different dynamic of villain that we haven't really seen in the MCU before. And I thought James Gunn, the casting for the High Evolutionary, was amazingly well done. It was perfect, pinpoint, and hasn't been much better in the MCU. And that is why I feel like he would be the perfect replacement for Jonathan Majors if he was to get fired by Marvel. Now, I'm not just saying this because of his acting, Chadwick's acting ability to be Kang. I think he has everything and the ability to pull off Kang the Conqueror and all of the variants. I think that he would be an incredible actor, like Jonathan Majors, as we saw in Quantumania. His acting in that and his performance as Kang was amazing, and Chadwick Boseman's performance as High Evolutionary was absolutely incredible as well. We haven't seen anything like that before, really, other than Jonathan Majors as Kang and Thanos and other villains in MCU. Of course, we've seen before, but it was different. There's something felt different with the High Evolutionary in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And I really liked the villain in that film, and it was confirmed that he did survive. Drax carried him out at the end, as we saw. There's been things people have confirmed, a part of the VFX team, and also James Gunn himself did confirm that the High Evolutionary is now locked up in nowhere. So I think that it would make sense for him to be a Kang variant. He feels the High Evolutionary's, I guess, motive is to make everything perfect, or the way he sees everything perfect in the universe. And we've seen that before with Thanos, and we felt that with Thanos before. With Kang, he feels his motive is more to create the perfect universe and the perfect multiverse and timelines, and he wants to destroy every timeline that doesn't feel right to him. But that was only Kang the Conqueror. We haven't really learned, and we don't know the motives of the other Kang variants in the MCU. Obviously, we saw them in the post-credit scene of Quantumania, but we didn't really get to see what their motives are and what they truly feel. Obviously, we did get to see that they have their own timelines, and they've created themselves. So of course they want to create a perfect multiverse as well. So it seems like all those Kangs have that in common. Which would make sense with the High Evolutionary as well. We learned with Loki, with the first Kang in the timeline in the 31st century. But the High Evolutionary, if Marvel did do some tweaks to the universe in the timelines, and they did change a few things around, then the High Evolutionary would be a perfect variant for Kang, and he just feels like that would be the way to start off his motives, and his stuff with the multiverse, him wanting to make his universe correct and his universe perfect before he then learnt about the multiverse, and he learnt about everything outside of his own universe, and he wanted to make that perfect. I think that would be the way to go about it with the High Evolutionary, seeing that he is still alive. Obviously they have to change a few things around in the MCU for that to work, for the High Evolutionary to be that Kang variant from Earth 616 or our timeline compared to other Kang variants in the multiverse. Obviously they have to change it around a bit, but I think the High Evolutionary powers are very similar as well to the powers that we sort of seen with Kang. All their powers are going to be different, and what we saw with Kang the Conqueror in Quantumania, his powers compared to what we saw with the High Evolutionary in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, they're not exactly the same, but they're quite similar, and that makes sense because they're not from the same universe, and they're not from the same multiverse. They're from different universes, so it makes sense if they had different powers, and they do look different. And they have different. High Evolutionary also wears purple. He has a full purple suit, as we saw in the future that we saw in the end battle scenes and stuff like that. He has a purple suit, which obviously we saw of Kang, his purple and green and whatever bluish suit that we saw in Quantumania. All of them have, purple stands out for Kang, all the Kang variants, as we saw in that post-credit scene in Quantumania. We saw that they all have I guess a shade of purple, or the colour purple in their suits. So I think it makes sense for High Evolutionary to be a variant of Kang. If everything goes wrong with Jonathan Majors and he does get fired and Marvel need to go searching, it wouldn't take them long, because it wouldn't be a lazy search, because Chudwook Iwuji was absolutely incredible as the High Evolutionary. So I think it does make the most sense to make him the actor of Kang. If they do get rid of Jonathan Majors, then I think Chudwook would be the perfect replacement for him. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion on this. I've seen a lot of people say this, that they would like to see him as Kang as well, if everything does go wrong with Jonathan Majors and they do need to recast Kang the Conqueror. I think the High Evolutionary would be perfect. I think it wouldn't take much either to change the story around with, the High Evolutionary being a Kang variant in our timeline. I think it makes sense. It wouldn't, harm it wouldn't harm I guess the movies and the future of the shows and stuff, and Marvel going forward. I think if anything it would help it and make it better, because I'm sure this would be the thing that every fan would want to see if everything does go wrong with Jonathan Majors and he does get recasted. Tell me what you guys think of this. Would you like to see Chudwook Iwuji as Kang the Conqueror if, Jonathan Majors does get recasted? I would love to see it. I think he's perfect. I loved him in Volume 3, and I hope we see High Evolutionary in the future if, Kang the Conqueror and obviously Jonathan Majors does stay and doesn't get recasted as Kang. I would love to still see the High Evolutionary again in the future at some point, because I thought he was great. I hope you guys did enjoy this video today, and I will see you in the next one.